You know what's truly shocking? A selfish person never truly expects you to wake up. They absolutely count on your silence, your endless forgiveness, your constant generosity. They honestly believe you'll always yield, always step back, always sacrifice your own needs just to keep things calm and steady. And because of that fixed belief, they never ever imagine a day will arrive when you finally and firmly decide enough is entirely enough. The moment you completely stop feeding their needy ego, the very moment you stop engaging in their petty games, you immediately and powerfully reverse the script. You show them that their single greatest nightmare has fully materialized. That nightmare isn't your intense anger, it is your absence. It isn't your tears and sadness, it is your formidable strength. It isn't the loud, desperate fights, it is the absolute silence. Because when you finally and decisively choose yourself first, you force them to face a brutal reality they never thought was possible: regret. This speech is not about seeking revenge. It is fundamentally about shifting all of your power back completely into your own hands. It is about clearly identifying the specific actions that make a selfish person regret every single thing they did to you. And trust me completely, regret doesn't happen because you relentlessly begged for it. It occurs when you confidently rise so high that they can no longer successfully reach you. Stop giving them your attention. That is their essential lifeline. Attention is like critical oxygen for a selfish person. Every glance, every noticeable reaction, every emotional outburst you give them only provides more proof that they still retain control over you. They thrive on this attention. They feed off your precious energy like it is essential for their very survival. And the absolute instant you cut that oxygen supply off, their fragile world starts to rapidly collapse around them. At first, they will aggressively push harder. They'll poke, prod, and frantically provoke, trying their best to trigger you back fully into the emotional game. Why do they do this? Because your reactions are their personal validation. Without them, they are left staring directly at their own internal emptiness, and nothing genuinely terrifies them more profoundly than quiet silence. When you deliberately fail to respond to their petty insults, you are sending an unmistakable message. You are no longer available for their manipulation. They fully expect you to justify yourself, to loudly defend your position, to fight back aggressively. But when you remain grounded, composed, and absolutely quiet, you rob them entirely of the drama they relentlessly crave. It is not easy to completely stop giving your attention. Your natural instinct is to correct their public lies, to forcefully call out their constant disrespect, to fight vigorously for basic fairness. But here is the hard truth. You will never, ever win by fighting on their chosen battlefield. The only win that truly matters comes when you calmly walk off it completely. Notice carefully how they immediately start to spiral out of control when you don't take the bait. That is your clear sign. That is the indisputable proof. They simply cannot handle being invisible or irrelevant to you. And it is in those specific moments that true regret begins to secretly creep in. They painfully realize they no longer control the valuable space in your head. Every single text message you do not answer, every call you firmly ignore, every small insult you absolutely refuse to acknowledge chips away relentlessly at their sense of control. They start to seriously question their inherent power. They start to strongly doubt their grip on you. And the painful truth is that doubt fundamentally eats them alive. You aren't starving them out of personal cruelty. You are patiently teaching them a brutal reality they never truly wanted to face. Your attention was always a privilege they abused. They mistakenly thought it was automatically guaranteed. They thought it was permanent and absolute. They foolishly thought they could continuously abuse it, and you would still keep freely giving. The single most powerful countermove is indifference. Indifference says, I do not need you at all. I don't even need to expend energy hating you. I have moved completely beyond you. That is the type of deep wound a selfish person never truly recovers from. They can handle your love easily. They can handle your intense anger, but they absolutely cannot handle your complete indifference. You must constantly remind yourself daily their survival depends entirely on your reaction. Every single time you refuse to give it, you forcefully take back your own power. That is not just simple discipline, that is pure transformation. The profound beauty of withholding your attention is that it also sets you completely free. You stop living your valuable life based on their drama, their rapidly changing moods, their endless manipulations. You decisively start living entirely on your own terms, and that profound freedom is clearly louder than any specific words you could ever possibly say. Think of your attention as a valuable currency. For years, you've been foolishly pouring it into an emotional black hole, getting absolutely nothing meaningful in return. Now, you are wisely investing it back fully into yourself, and the undeniable returns are peace, crystal clarity, and true strength. They will scramble desperately. They will loudly act out. They will frantically try new and different tactics, but remember clearly, that chaos is not proof you're losing the battle. It is definitive proof that you are winning. If they are desperate for your attention, it undeniably means your silence is highly effective. The longer you forcefully withhold it, the deeper the regret intensely grows. Not because they genuinely miss you as a person, but because they desperately miss the control. And that is exactly how you finally and permanently break the toxic spell. It is not about harsh punishment. It is profoundly about shifting the entire power dynamic completely and absolutely. You are no longer their constant supply. You are no longer their essential lifeline. And that definitive shift makes them regret everything they ever did. Turn your pain into power and build a life beyond them. A selfish person completely believes they've broken you for good. They mistakenly think the pain they intentionally caused will keep you defeated forever. But here's the absolute truth. Pain, when you learn to use it correctly, is the very powerful fuel that will make you absolutely unstoppable. The pain you now carry is direct evidence of what you've successfully survived. It's proof of your incredible strength. It's not a weakness at all. It is pure power simply waiting to be wisely redirected. And when you choose to actively build a new life instead of remaining broken, you show them something they truly never expected, that their attempted destruction only became the foundation for your rebirth. Building a life beyond their influence doesn't begin with major grand gestures. It starts with small, daily, deliberate choices. Choosing quiet peace over unnecessary chaos, choosing consistent growth over total stagnation, choosing yourself and your needs over their toxic, demanding cycle. Each choice builds necessary momentum. Each choice builds your personal power. They desperately want you stuck repeating the story of what they did to you. They want you to constantly replay the betrayal, the lies, the manipulation tactics. But you have the absolute power to rewrite the entire story. You can transform every single scar into a powerful reminder of what you will never allow again. That fundamental shift is exactly what makes them regret it deeply, because their single greatest fear is that you will ultimately rise above them. Imagine the flood of regret that completely overwhelms them when they see you fully thriving in all the areas of your life they aggressively tried to destroy. They desperately tried to make you believe you were completely insufficient, and yet here you are, clearly proving you are much more than enough. That sharp contradiction relentlessly eats away at them. You do not have to prove your inherent worth to them. You prove it fully to yourself by consistently building the fulfilling life you truly deserve. A life richly filled with true joy, mutual love, deep peace, and personal purpose. And when they witness that success, it's not simply jealousy alone. It is profound regret. Regret for severely underestimating your resolve. Transformation is the most powerful form of countermove, not because you initially set out to hurt them, but because your consistent growth highlights everything they lost. They mistakenly thought they had the final permanent say in your life story, but you have forcefully taken the pen back. Every single step forward you take is a stark reminder to them of what they willfully destroyed. And the more consistently you shine, the harder it becomes for them to escape the truth. They never successfully broke you completely. They only exposed their own profound weakness. The regret deepens significantly when they realize they will never have access to the new version of you, the strong version, the powerful version, the version that no longer tolerates any disrespect. That's the specific version they cannot and will not ever touch. It's not about running away from the initial pain. It's profoundly about transforming it, using it strategically as fuel to aggressively build something substantially better. And every single time you rise up, you force them to face the harsh reality that their deliberate abuse completely backfired on them. Pain creates lasting wisdom. Pain creates undeniable clarity. Pain creates immense resilience. And those specific qualities are what make you completely untouchable to them now. They cannot successfully manipulate someone who has confidently turned intense pain into personal power. They'll look back repeatedly and realize that what they lost was not just a partner, a friend, or a simple connection. They lost someone who possessed the immense courage to grow permanently past their influence. And that profound loss cuts deeper than anything you could ever verbally say. So, do not try to run from the pain. Harness it fully. Let it constantly remind you of your inherent strength, and let it become the unshakable foundation of the fulfilling life you are actively building beyond their control. That is precisely how you make them regret everything completely. Raise your standards so they no longer qualify for you. A selfish person fundamentally depends on you repeatedly lowering your basic standards. They entirely count on you tolerating their disrespect. They fully expect you to constantly compromise your established boundaries. They manage to survive because you allowed problematic behavior you would never tolerate from literally anyone else. That stops right now. When you decisively raise your standards, you are making a silent yet highly powerful public announcement. You've completely outgrown them. You are definitively no longer the person they successfully manipulated, easily deceived, or entirely controlled. You've actively evolved into someone who firmly demands respect, open honesty, and complete accountability. And they simply cannot keep up with that change. Raising your standards is not just about romantic relationships. It's about every single part of your life, your genuine friendships, your professional work, your overall health, your positive mindset. When you set the bar significantly higher, you naturally attract people and valuable opportunities that consistently match your true worth. The selfish person will witness this evolution, and it will deeply haunt them. Here is the undeniable truth that genuinely destroys them. They harshly realize they no longer meet your qualifications. The cheap tricks they used to employ no longer work on you. The lies they tell do not successfully land. The gaslighting attempts no longer confuse you. Their entire arsenal of manipulation has become utterly useless because your new, higher standards permanently eliminated their access to you. At first, they will strongly test you. They'll attempt to sneak back in with quick flattery, with obviously fake apologies, with convenient promises of immediate change. But the higher your standards remain, the easier it is for you to clearly see through their predictable act. You no longer immediately yield just because they say the exact words you once desperately wanted to hear. And when they realize that final refusal, the regret immediately begins to take deep root. They bitterly regret losing the past version of you who willingly accepted less than you deserved. They regret deeply that they can no longer successfully manipulate the strong person standing firmly in front of them now. And that intense regret quickly turns into overwhelming frustration. You do not have to loudly scream about your standards. You simply live them visibly. The clear, calm way you immediately walk away from any disrespect. The absolute way you refuse to explain yourself further. The definitive way you no longer seek their personal validation. That quiet, unwavering strength speaks much louder than anything else you could possibly say. Think about this crucial fact. They actively trained you to settle for less. They actively trained you to emotionally shrink. But when you firmly refuse to play along, you show them that all their relentless effort to severely weaken you was entirely wasted. That's not just a minor blow to their massive ego. It is complete devastation. Raising your standards is a profound act of genuine self-respect. It's strongly declaring to yourself and to the entire world, I will never again settle for crumbs. And when you consistently hold that unwavering line, selfish people naturally disappear because they cannot survive, where there is no longer any tolerance for disrespect. Their regret grows exponentially each time they watch you firmly demand better. Not because they suddenly realize your value, but because they realize you've completely cut off the supply they once fed on so easily. And they will never, ever get that past version of you back. The higher your standards are raised, the more difficult it is for them to even approach you at all. And when they see you fully thriving with boundaries they could never possibly respect, it painfully magnifies their own personal failures. They once had full access. They completely lost it. And now they will never regain it. Do not be surprised when they aggressively try to convince you that your new standards are too high, too demanding, or completely unrealistic. That is simply their own way of saying, I am incapable of meeting them. But that is the entire crucial point. You have clearly evolved past the level they can ever honestly reach, and this definitive shift doesn't just make them regret their actions. It protects you permanently, because once your standards are solidly raised, you'll never again allow yourself to fall back into their predictable trap. That immense strength is completely permanent. The selfish person will painfully regret every single time they made you feel small, because the strong person you've become makes it utterly impossible for them to ever fit back into your world again. That is the kind of profound regret they absolutely never recover from. Master the art of silence and indifference. If attention is their essential lifeline, then silence is their ultimate punishment. Nothing successfully disarms a selfish person faster than your complete indifference. They desperately crave chaos. They want loud shouting, uncontrolled crying, intense arguments, lengthy explanations. But when you consistently give them absolutely nothing in return, it emotionally starves them in a way they absolutely cannot endure. Silence does not represent weakness or defeat. Silence represents absolute control. It means you've decisively risen far above their toxic level. It means you firmly refuse to participate in their childish game. And nothing makes them regret their past behavior faster than suddenly realizing that their power over you is completely and irreversibly gone. At first, your silence will intensely enrage them. They'll push harder, trying desperately to provoke you into reacting instantly. They'll say the cruelest, most hurtful things, intentionally create the loudest drama just to forcefully pull you back into their orbit. But every single time you remain perfectly calm and completely indifferent, you show them that their old tricks have permanently expired. They are severely addicted to your strong emotions. So when you deliberately refuse to flinch, you immediately become their painful emotional withdrawal. And withdrawal truly hurts them. It forces them to aggressively face the undeniable fact that their manipulations no longer work at all. That is precisely when the deep regret begins to intensely seep in. Your silence speaks much louder than words. It plainly says, I am no longer your toy. I am no longer your immediate supply. I am no longer the easily manipulated person you can push around freely. And that powerful, unspoken message shakes them right to their very core. Indifference is not about pretending you don't care. It is profoundly about genuinely detaching all emotional ties. It is about reaching the absolute point where their words and actions no longer successfully penetrate your sense of self-worth. That specific level of inner peace is something they will absolutely never know or experience. And that undeniable contrast relentlessly gnaws at them. Every single moment you consciously choose silence, you forcefully take back your own power. You refuse to meaningfully engage. You refuse to justify your position. You refuse to play their game. That unwavering strength is magnetic, and it leaves them frantically scrambling for the control they simply cannot find anymore. Think about how much valuable energy you used to spend explaining yourself, fiercely defending yourself, aggressively fighting back. All of that now wasted energy is finally yours again. And the selfish person, they are left with absolutely nothing substantial to feed on. Your silence is a clear mirror. It forcefully requires them to face themselves. And the painful truth is, they cannot emotionally stand their own reflection. That is the fundamental reason they work so incredibly hard to distract you. Without your powerful reaction, they are permanently stuck, confronting the emptiness that resides inside them. Indifference is pure power because it completely strips them of their absolute favorite weapon, your powerful emotions. They cannot successfully manipulate what they cannot emotionally move. And once you've truly mastered that essential skill, you have decisively won the war. Silence does not mean you don't care about anything. It means you've completely stopped caring about what no longer positively serves you. And that firm boundary is something they will never genuinely accept because it means their controlling grip is entirely gone forever. Every single desperate attempt they make to get under your skin will severely fail. And every single failure will only deepen their immense regret. They'll fully realize they've permanently lost the one thing they depended on most: your constant, undivided attention. The profound beauty of silence is that it's final and permanent. You can't logically argue with it. You can't successfully twist its meaning. You can't control it at all. And for a selfish person, that is pure psychological torture. The more profoundly indifferent you actively become, the more desperately they will behave. But the more desperate they rapidly become, the clearer it immediately becomes that you have already completely won. And in that unshakable silence, their immense regret grows louder than anything you could ever physically say. Show them through your growth what they'll never have again. Here's the final, definitive blow. Living a life so full, so strong, so genuinely joyful that they physically cannot stand to look at it closely. Nothing makes a selfish person regret their actions more completely than watching you thrive openly without their involvement. They mistakenly thought they were the permanent center of your universe. They wrongly thought you couldn't possibly survive without their personal approval. They honestly believed they were completely irreplaceable. So when you rise up higher and better than ever before, it utterly destroys that fundamental illusion. Your visible growth is undeniable proof of their severe failure. It clearly shows them that all their abusive attempts to break you only serve to make you exponentially stronger. And deep down inside, that truth cuts much deeper than any specific words you could ever utter. They'll try hard to convince themselves you're only pretending, that your new happiness is totally fake. But the more consistent and visible your growth becomes, the harder it is for them to logically deny. That predictable denial quickly turns into deep bitterness, and bitterness quickly turns into lasting regret. Every personal goal you successfully achieve, every firm boundary you consistently enforce, every ounce of genuine peace you visibly radiate, it all serves to remind them powerfully of what they completely lost. Not because they actually miss loving you, but because they desperately miss controlling you. The selfish person's biggest regret occurs when they clearly see you flourishing in the precise areas of your life they tried hardest to destroy. Your strong confidence, your genuine friendships, your successful career, your fierce self-love. All the valuable things they aggressively chipped away at now shine brighter than ever before. And here's the absolute beautiful part. You are not doing this personal growth for them at all. You are doing it entirely for yourself. The regret they feel is merely a beneficial side effect. The true lasting reward is the genuine freedom and deep fulfillment you've consciously built for your own life. Your consistent growth vividly highlights their own stagnation. While you powerfully move forward, they remain permanently stuck in their same destructive cycles. That sharp contrast relentlessly eats at them because it conclusively proves they never possessed the permanent power they mistakenly thought they did. Imagine them watching you laugh freely, love deeply, and live boldly. That specific image will permanently haunt them because it proves you never needed them to begin with. That ultimate realization is completely devastating to their needy ego. Every single day you choose personal growth, you fundamentally prove their past abuse was a failure, and every undeniable reminder of that failure creates more profound regret than you will ever fully know. The best revenge is not revenge at all. It is living fully and completely. It is confidently walking in your true power. It is actively showing up for yourself in ways they never could or would. And that established reality is something they can never logically erase. They'll constantly replay old memories, wondering desperately how they lost someone so inherently strong. They'll relentlessly search for convenient ways to re-enter your life, only to painfully realize the door is permanently closed forever. And that closed door will become the enduring symbol of their single biggest regret. So keep growing, keep shining brightly, keep consistently building a life so full and meaningful that their past presence doesn't even register in your awareness. That fulfilling life is your ultimate victory, and that established life is their most painful regret. Detach from their illusion and see them for who they really are. The greatest regret you can ever create in a selfish person is when you finally and permanently stop believing the false illusion they aggressively sold you. Their entire fragile power rests on successfully convincing you they are more impressive than they actually are, smarter, stronger, more capable, more inherently important. But the very moment you clearly see through that mask, the manipulative spell is immediately broken. They cannot successfully manipulate someone who clearly sees the truth. Selfish people exist solely off illusions. They craft themselves as mighty heroes, as innocent victims, as completely irreplaceable forces in your life. They thrive when you falsely put them high on a pedestal, when you blindly believe their words over your own logical instincts. That illusion grants them control over you. But here is the critical shift. You take that control back completely the second you realize they were never truly the person they pretended to be. Detaching from the illusion doesn't mean ignoring the few good memories that exist. It profoundly means refusing to let the fantasy override the clear reality. Yes, they gave you isolated moments of manufactured love, but those moments were simply bait. They were not the full truth. They were purely tools of control. And once you completely accept that fact, you stop hopelessly waiting for the mask to fall off because you know it already has. Seeing them clearly for who they are is true freedom. Freedom from their endless lies, from their superficial charm, from their repeating cycles. When you finally see that the false person they vigorously pretended to be never actually existed in the first place, you stop desperately craving their toxic approval. And that complete indifference is their worst possible nightmare. Detachment is immensely powerful because it completely removes the emotional strings they once easily pulled. When you no longer instantly react to their manipulations, you forcefully push them into a powerless position. They can scream loudly, they can cry dramatically, they can desperately beg, but none of it successfully lands because you've learned the fundamental truth. Their claimed power was never truly real. It was merely borrowed power, taken from your misguided belief in them. Their regret begins the precise moment they realize you no longer see them as incredibly special. When you look directly at them and see absolutely nothing but a severely fragile ego wrapped in multiple layers of lies, their entire false identity instantly crumbles. They profoundly hate being ordinary, they deeply hate being exposed, and your deliberate detachment achieves precisely that outcome. Detachment does not happen suddenly overnight. It happens the specific day you stop meticulously analyzing their words and start focusing exclusively on their concrete actions. It happens the day you stop hopelessly waiting for them to change and start firmly demanding genuine respect. It happens the day you finally and definitively decide you deserve much better. And when you successfully detach, everything in your life shifts positively. The silence that used to feel oppressive and heavy becomes profound peace. The physical distance that used to feel immensely painful becomes absolute freedom. The illusion that once held you captive becomes entirely laughable. That immense transformation forcefully drives them into the one emotion they cannot psychologically stand, regret. Because here is the final essential truth. Selfish people do not regret losing you as a person. They desperately regret losing the control, the convenient power, the illusion you once believed in and upheld. And when you permanently shatter that illusion, they know definitively they can never rebuild it again. That is a profound loss they absolutely never fully recover from. The moment you permanently take back your attention, raise your essential standards, consciously choose silence, and actively grow beyond their manipulative reach, the selfish person is left with absolutely nothing but regret. They lose the fabricated illusion, the total control, the oppressive power they once held over you. And in that final loss, you rise higher, stronger, and more absolutely free than they ever believed you possibly could.